Hello everyone, and welcome to this Moodle Academy webinar, 5 custom reports you can't live without. And I'm Mary Cooch, Education Manager here at Moodle HQ, and I'm very pleased to welcome Paul Holden, Technical Architect at Moodle HQ, and Moodle Custom Reports Expert, actually, who's going to be sharing with us some very useful custom reports in Moodle LMS and Moodle Workplace. Going to be a very interesting presentation and also hopefully answering your questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to pass over to Paul to start the webinar.
Okay, thank you, Mary, for the introduction. My name is Paul Holden. I work on the Moodle Premium Solutions team. I'm a technical architect for the Workplace product. Today, we are going to talk about the custom reporting tools in Moodle. I will give a whistle-stop tour of various functionalities in conjunction with types of reports that you might find useful. And these types of reports could be applicable for a different array of users, some focused on administrators. We've got managers, teachers, and students. So just for a little bit of history, the custom reporting tool that we know and use in Moodle, this was originally developed and released as a Workplace exclusive feature. And as part of Workplace's commitment to the open source Moodle product, it was decided that this part of the product will be moved to Moodle itself, and the whole community can benefit from this. So I'm going to go through the reports. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to give a brief summary of some of the additional work that we've done in Workplace. And this is just to show some of the additional functionality that is available with custom reporting. This won't be a sales pitch. So when we're talking about custom reports, we're talking about the ability for users to create their own very specific institutional reports. And this reporting data can be pulled from a wide variety of sources. I've listed here some of the sources of report data that exists in Moodle. I know there are many users, clients, partners, and Workplace sites that have additional sources. But these are the core ones that you will get by default on a Moodle install. We're going to look at a few of these. Some you can see are administrative, some are related to attainment, and each of them really has their niche area where they're most useful. This is a summary of some of the reports we're going to look at. Each of them highlight specific parts of functionality. We're going to talk about how we create them, how we configure them, how we allow access to them, and how we can automate delivery of these reports. Each will focus on a different user persona. So the first one, this is a report. And it's really applicable for any type of attainment that can be reported on. So it can be competencies, badges, grades. In this case, I've gone for course completion. So the intention of this report is to allow any user on the site to have a personalized, their own version of the report that shows data relevant and specific to only them. And how do we do this? So there's one really useful condition when we're adding a report, that is to limit the report data to anything related to the current user. Now, by the current user, what we mean there is the user who is viewing the report. So if I'm student Joe Blogs looking at this report, I'm only going to see information for Joe Blogs. Similarly, if I'm student John Smith, I'm just going to see information in the report related to John Smith. So what we can do with this condition here is pair it with an audience to allow all users to view the report. Audience is the mechanism in custom reports to define who you want to access this report. We're not creating reports in a void. Typically, the intention of us creating a report is to allow other people to use, share, and benefit from it. In this case, we're saying we want all site users to access this report. So what this means is, well, I'll continue what this means. The other way that we set up this report is by using the conditions. So the conditions can be thought of the building blocks of any report. This is at a base level what you want in the report. So I'm saying here in this report, I want to show all data for the current user where they have an active enrollment in the course as a student. And that's it. These conditions are very, very flexible. For any of you who are familiar with custom reports, you will recognize this and you will see that there are an awful lot of ways to flexibly create your reports. In addition to conditions, what we can also do is create filters. So the filters are an interface element on top of conditions, and this is for the users who are viewing the report to further drill down the data that they're looking for. So what we've done here is we've created two filters to allow Joe Bloggs or John Smith to search for specific courses or to only show completed courses in their report. Now, what does this look like when we come to view it? So because I previously granted the ability for all users to access the report, any user who accesses their list of custom reports is presented with My Course Completion. Now, this student here has clicked on that and they can see at a summary all of the courses that they are enrolled on and their progress through them. So the data and the criteria is demo data, but you can imagine that this will be useful if we're talking only about course completion to give them an accurate summary of what they have to do for a given course, their current progress through it. But this applies to any type of attainment. You might want to show them competencies. If we're talking workplace specific, because I know we've got some workplace users, you could imagine this will be the programs or the certifications that they're progressing through. And again, it gives them a summary. And this is one of the really useful ways of thinking about creating reports that are quite generic, but when users view them, they get a very personalized view of them. And then as we created the filters before, this user can then search for courses, they can export this data, they can save this data, or just keep it as a record of their progress in attaining whatever the report is displaying. So this was our first report. What's our next one? Now, this one is for anyone who has ever been an administrator on a Moodle site or even a curious teacher. What's taking up all the space on my system? Why has my Moodle site ballooned to 600 gigabytes of data? Like, where is all that data? There are various proposals, solutions, and documentation that have existed, spread about over the docs pages and forums, but we can actually achieve this with a custom report. And this can be reporting per category, per course, per user, per activity. Really, we can determine during the report creation exactly how we want to group and find, I say offenders, but really we're only looking for the large uses of file storage. What we're also doing in this is introducing or demonstrating how aggregation works. We'll get to that shortly. So this is how I've created this report. Because I want to see how big each course is, what I really want to see is how much space is each activity in the course using. And once I have that data, I can then group it by the course. So once again, we go to the conditions, and if you're using the files report source as the basis for your report, we can then set a condition to select all activity modules. And that's what I'm doing there with the context level. And so the parent of any activity is the course. So if I want to report on the course, then look at the right-hand side of the presentation. That's the column that I want. Now, the interesting thing and the thing we're going to introduce here is how do we aggregate that data? Like, what do I want to know from here? For curiosity's sake, I want to count the number of files that all of the activities in each course are using. So when you're in the report editor, you will see the little aggregation drop-down, and this allows you to perform all kinds of manipulation on the data. So if we're talking about numeric values, which would be counts or sum, maximum, minimum, average, then this is where you want to look. This will do all of the calculation for you. So I've counted the files, and I want the sum of the file size. So if I've got two files, one's 200 meg, one's 100 meg, I want the sum of that value. And this is how I've configured this report. And now what does that give us? That gives us this. So in this case, I'm reporting on all my courses, and I can see my biggest offender there is Law 101. So it gives me a starting point. Why is it using so much space? So this report isn't the end goal, but it's going to give you a start to what's consumed my space. And we can very easily modify or duplicate this report and amend it to show users, like which users are storing their enormous video collection in their private files, that kind of thing. And like I said earlier, you can also group by category, which categories are consuming all your space. So the report source itself doesn't define what or how you should report on it. It's very, very flexible. And with a little bit of tinkering of columns, conditions, and aggregation, you can usually achieve, well, you can always achieve very extensive reporting. This one I have found useful, and I know it's been used elsewhere. Right, what are we going to go to next? Now, this is sticking to the administration theme, but what we're going to look at here is how do we automate some of these reporting things? Automating means how do we remove the responsibility of users to keep going to Moodle and check them? How do we send the data to them, make it push, rather than them having to perform the manual work of checking reports? So what we can do there is use a scheduling tool. So we will talk about scheduling tool, what that does, and how that can not only automate parts of people's workflow, as this will demonstrate, but also as a useful, it could just be an archiving tool. We might send a weekly report to teaching staff on their courses. I mean, literally any report that you can create from any source, we can set up delivery of that report to specified users. So in this case, what am I doing? I'm creating a report. I want to know from the task log source any task that is failed within the last hour. This in itself is quite useful, actually, to find out if there are problems that we need to get on top of in our site. We might see a pattern. Something might have happened on the infrastructure side that has caused a deluge of task failures. What we're interested as an admin is getting notified of that as quickly as possible. So here's my report. This is a simple report. It's just saying, tell me everything that's failed that's run within the last hour. But what we can pair this with is an equivalent schedule. So we can say, I want all my site administrators to be able to access this report. But not only that, I want to send this report to my site administrators hourly as well. So in this case, we paired the recurrence with the look back of the actual report. And the schedule is another flexible tool. This is a brief tour through it. We can define how we want to send this data. PDF is quite an accessible format, easily digestible, but you can export it as Excel documents. I forget off the top of my head the other formats, but there are various different formats for exporting report data. As you can see there, we set the recurrence. I've said for my audience, I want to send this to all of my site administrators. A couple of fields here to add some context to the message. This is a demo. You would probably want to give more information there, like click here to resolve or check XYZ. Another useful thing we want to do here is we don't want to spam our users every single hour if there's nothing to report. So there's an option in the advanced thing that says if there's nothing to report, well, don't do anything. There's no action to be taken. We don't need to do anything. For your own workflow, you might say, I don't mind getting an empty report. At least I know nothing's happened. But this is flexible. So in this case, I've said, if an hour passes, no tasks have failed, I don't need to tell anybody about it. So what happens then? This is what happens. So you'll see the subject and the message are exactly what I just typed in. The users who I selected have got their hourly message saying, hey, check these two tasks because they both failed in the last hour. As an admin now, I've had that information pushed to me. I can then take any appropriate action. This has many other use cases, as I said earlier. Any kind of report that has historical value is useful to be distributed to the people who are looking at the report. And very flexible, and yep, there's no set way to use it as it suits your workflow. And that's task scheduling. Where do we go next? Badges. One of the things we can do with custom reports is recreate pretty much any report in Moodle that's also using Report Builder. But when we recreate it, we can make a better version of it. So we're not relying on some far-off improvement that may land in the next version. If we want to make our own report that gives us the data that we want, presented how we want, and customized compared to what's in Moodle, we can do that ourselves. So I've called this one Badges But Better. Obviously, that's very subjective. And I'll show you how I've done that. So your system reports can all be replicated. That applies to anywhere you see the Report Builder interface, tasks, badges, comments, tags, various other places that are all using Report Builder. We can create an equivalent report ourselves. And just going back to the previous example, in creating equivalent reports, we also get the other benefits that Report Builder brings of the scheduling, the automatic assignment of which users can access it, and that kind of thing. I will mention here that there is a proposal, this is a long-standing proposal from back in the Workplace days, to allow for the inline editing of system reports, which would mean everything I'm showing you now, you could actually do to the report itself that would show on the badges page. There's still some work to be done and defined on that, but I just thought I'd share it now as this is part of a future roadmap. So this is how I've created my version of the badges report. You can see the columns, aggregation, and how I'm naming all of the columns at the top. So I can recreate exactly what's in the badges report, but I want to add some more. I want to show the description. I want to actually see who's received this report. You can see at the side, I've set some conditions and filters. And again, because I'm customizing this. I can set whichever conditions I want this. So maybe I just want to create a custom view of the badges for my specific course, and I want my teachers in this course to be able to view that as an improved alternative to how they would natively do it. Let me see what this looks like. So this is it. So this is my custom badges report. I've added a description. I've actually listed the recipients because I think that's useful for me to see here. And I want to see when it was last issued to someone. It's a very straightforward example, but it does demonstrate how we can take influence from existing reports and make them our own. And this might be just for me, or like I said, I might share this with other users so that they can access it as well. And this is our badges report. What do we have next? So this is a course report. So this is almost a sibling report for the very first report, custom report that I demonstrated at the beginning, which was from a student's perspective. This was showing for a student all of their own reports. What if we wanted to invert that and change it so that the intended audience was a teacher? What if we showed the teacher the same data, but we showed it for their own courses and for their own teaching groups? This is what this report achieves. I've mentioned a tracker issue there, and I see now it's been cut off. This is related to refining reports to make it easier to customize them and personalize them for a teacher's own courses, groups, and/or cohorts. But we can still achieve the same thing without that. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. So you'll recognize some of the conditions I've created here. So I'm saying for this report, I want to see all active student enrollments, basically. But rather than saying this report is for a specific user, this report is for a specific course. I've mentioned there now, you can search for and match courses however you like. You can match courses by category. You could match courses by literally just searching for it. But in this case, I've said I want the Law 101. And just like we matched the current user condition with an equivalent audience, we can do the same here. So we might say that all my managers have access to this, or users in the law cohort have access to this report. So what does this give us? So this is sort of the sibling to the first report we demonstrated, except the teacher is now seeing it for their groups. And in fact, they've applied a filter because they only want to see Group A. And they're seeing their progress for each student. And again, this is one that's related to attainment. So equivalent reports can be created for badges, competencies, various completion grades. And if we're talking about workplace, we're looking at programs, certifications. And from a teacher's point of view, it's given them a view that's very similar to one of the grades reports, which gives an overview by course. But it's a customized version. So in this case, I'm showing student progress. Perhaps I have a requirement to show extra data or less data, or I change how that data is displayed. The possibilities are endless, but in this case, I've just shown student progress. And I think that's covered all our personas. We've gone through admins, students, teachers, managers. There are the personas we're normally using when we're writing user stories for new feature development. And those were the personas I had sort of in the back of my head while I was thinking about these reports. Now, reports, textual data, that's great and everything, but people like colors, they like pretty graphs, they like interactivity. And I mentioned at the beginning that I would talk briefly about how we use reports in Workplace product. This isn't a sales pitch. This is just a demonstration of the additional functionality that is possible when you've got all this report data. Like, what do you do with it? So we have graphical reporting in Workplace. Now, this is a huge thing because as well as graphical, it allows you to embed reports anywhere. So for those of you who are familiar with blocks in Moodle, we have a block plugin that will allow you to embed reports anywhere you could add a block. So you can do your custom dashboards, you can do your courses, anywhere where you can add a block, we can now embed reports and put nice, pretty graphs in them. And what does this look like? So the reports are created exactly as you and I have been using them, as I've demonstrated. But what it does is allow them to be selected and then displayed as chart and embedded report data within graphs. And now, whether this ever comes in Moodle is a decision that's above me. So don't ask me when this will come to Moodle. That's for the higher ups to decide. But that's graphical. That's what else you can do with reports. So reports don't just need to exist as plain old textual data. We can do really cool and interesting things with them. And it's very hard for me to demonstrate with screenshots, but these charts are interactive and responsive as well. So that was my whistle-stop tour of various report builder functionality, various places and options we can apply these things, and I hope it's given you some ideas or inspiration for your own reports. And does anybody have any questions? At which point I will hand it back over to you, Mary.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Paul. Okay, so we have a few questions and comments, and perhaps as I'm speaking, some more will come. Ulrika was asking, where do you find the reports? So as an admin, you can go to site admin reports, and then there's custom reports. If you're not an admin, but you have a report that's visible to you as a teacher or a student, I think you see it from the user menu. There's a link there.
Yep.
A direct link, that's very helpful. And I just, as you were presenting the first couple of reports, it reminded me that on our Mount Orange University demo site, so school.moodledemo.net, we've actually got some example reports similar to these, which actually Paul helped me create a while back with different releases. And we could even create some more based on what you've done today, Paul. So you could just go to that site with the manager login that's clearly stated on the site and see how those reports work, especially if you're new to reports. You can see the source, you can see the filters and so on. Okay. And then regarding the one with the large files, and actually I think that one is an example that's used on the school demo site as well. Samuel is saying, well, how do I know which course the large files are in Moodle?
Do you want me to circle back to
Yeah, if you could just go back and clarify that again. So I think you did, yeah.
That is a good question. Here we are.
Yeah.
So the way that this, let me show you the outcome.
Yeah.
So the way that this report is set up is I'm actually counting all the files within the activities within the course, which is fundamentally the main place all the files belonging to a course are going to be. So you'll have a forum activity, maybe with attachments. You'll have assignment with numerous submissions. You might have some PDF documents uploaded. And they're all going to be attached to the activities within the course rather than the course itself. So what we do when we're creating our report is we're saying we want to find all files that are activity modules. So that's what context level is looking at. It's saying I want all my activity modules. But in my report, what I'm actually displaying is the parent of those activity modules. So the parent of any activity module is the course to which it belongs. And that's how we get Law 101 there as the course, and it's counted. How many files is it counted? 139 files of 90 megabytes cumulative size. That's how it displays the course.
Okay, thank you. Ian's asking if Moodle reports, I'm assuming he means custom reports or maybe all reports, integrate with external systems. For example, Looker Studios. I've never heard of Looker Studio, actually.
Actually, it's a very relevant question at the moment. What we have at the moment, as I demonstrated here, is the ability to export to email. What a lot of people want is additional places to export to. So you might want to export your report data with a web service request to, I forget the name of the system you just said, but to an external system.
Studio,
you might want to export the data to a file on a web server or on a remote server. And I say that's relevant at the moment because that's actually something we're looking at with the UX team right now. I will share Mary, is there somewhere I can share tickets later for?
Yes, yeah. Well, you can give them to me, and I can share them. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know the ticket offhand, but I will share it with Mary so that you can see what we are doing there.
Okay. Thank you. Just to clarify, then, so you've done 5 custom reports. Can you just remind us of the source of each of those custom reports?
Yes, of course.
Because you'd already set the source when you started the screenshots of the reports.
I have here. So for the student, the My Course completion, the source of that one was course participants.
Course participants, okay.
For the file size, the source of this report was the files.
Files, right.
The task failures is task logs.
Task logs.
And the badges report was from the badges source.
Yeah.
And then the course report, again, that was from the course participants. So the course participants shows all the completion, grade, etc.
Yeah, and that would be a good one to add to Moodle, to Mount Orange School, school.moodledemo.net, although potentially we could add all of them, actually. If you will help me with that at some point, Paul, that would be great.
Always glad to, yes.
Yeah, to have some examples publicly visible. Luigi says it's not always easy to understand the aggregations according to the data for me, but these reports make it easy to produce reports and send them automatically. And he said that's great to have as a tool in core, definitely. Adam is asking, I think, continuing the conversation about external systems, so CRM systems, Odoo, Salesforce, Moodleware. Again, linking to other systems.
Which is exactly the use case we want to solve.
Okay, are there any more questions? Oh yeah, Luigi, good point. Luigi's actually pointed out, and I remember thinking this was good too, with Moodle LMS 5, you can now copy reports.
Yes, yes, we can duplicate them. That is a big time saver, especially when you want to have a report and you only need to make tweaks to it. Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
At last, says Luigi, definitely. Okay, yeah. What's really nice about the custom reports feature is the way that, although it was initially made for Workplace, a lot of features have been brought into open source Moodle, and that's really very nice, and increasingly so with each version, especially thanks to Paul.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions? Maybe you'd like to move the slides on a little bit as people are asking questions. So Tracy said, are there any plans, though this is an interesting one, are there any plans to integrate course logs as a possible source for reports, for example, so you can track guest user access?
I can share the issue. There were plans just for some history,
Yeah.
that was going to be one of the first ones we were going to convert.
Right.
But there were the technical issues at the time, which meant we couldn't. Although, again, I'll share the ticket with you so that you have visibility of that. But yes, certainly the course logs is an obvious one for this because it would be so flexible. We have to be mindful of performance.
All right.
But yes, certainly let me share the issue with Mary after this presentation so she can distribute that.
Okay, thank you. And Tracy also says thank you.
You're welcome.
If there aren't any more questions, I'm just going to talk a little bit to finish off the webinar about how you can get involved in Moodle Academy. And thanks very much to Paul for sharing his expertise on custom reports. If you're new to custom reports, Anna's perfectly timed a link to a video there for those not familiar. And there is also, I think you linked the documentation in the user documentation on custom reports, both for LMS and also for workplace users. So we'd love you to help us grow Moodle Academy by, for example, suggesting topic ideas. We have on the front page of Academy a Get Involved course where you can suggest topics to be covered in future webinars and courses. And we look at that and we take those ideas and make them reality. Also, you might be a Moodle expert on a particular topic and you could help us contribute to webinars and courses. And if your first language is a language other than English, we'd love you to help translate Moodle Academy, the courses into your language. So we have a course called Translate Moodle Academy. And if you go through that course, you'll learn how to use our translation plugin, which is also available for everyone else in the world who uses Moodle, to easily translate our courses. So you can go into a course and immediately see it in your language. If you could move on to the next slide, please, Paul. And please help us spread the word about Moodle Academy and our qualifications. So every course you do, you can earn a badge if you complete it. Please tell others about Moodle Academy. We run webinars regularly every month, more than one a month. And we'd love our community to grow, sharing Moodle expertise for free. If you are an experienced Moodler, either an experienced Moodle educator, teacher, lecturer, trainer, or you're an admin of a Moodle site, experienced Moodle admin, we have official qualifications run through our Moodle partners. And if you're interested in finding out whether you are at the level that you could take this, we have Are You Ready for MEQ or Are You Ready for MAQ quiz that you can take through Moodle Academy to check if you're ready to do those. So have a look at those if either of those applies to you. Thanks, Anna, for the links there. And I think with no more questions and with, again, thanks to Paul, we'll stop there. Thank you very much. We had a good attendance and a great webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.